Let's make history.
There is a local 4 train to Woodlawn. Approaching the station, please stand away from the platform edge.
The Native Americans developed these massive trails that they had been using for thousands of years. In many spaces, it was only 2 feet wide, but it varied. And starting in the 1600s, not long after European arrival, they started using these same trails to deliver mail. One major one was called the Boston Post Road. And this is US Route 1. Many of our major highways, boulevards, etc. were developed and had their start from these old Native American trails. The Boston Post Road from New York City all the way up to Boston. The first European to settle that area where Fordham Road would be is Jan Arthur, who was a Dutchman. And he named it Fordham after an English priest from the 1300s. And Jan Arthur, he must have had a thing for, he must have had a lot of respect for English culture, because he even anglicized his name to John Archer down the line. But he was the one that named it Fordham Manor. Down the line in the 1800s, the mid 1800s, a priest named John Hughes, an Irish priest named John Hughes, purchased some of that land. And mind you, it was first settled in the area of 225th Street near the Harlem River. John Hughes, the priest, purchased part of Fordham known as Rose Hill, and he created a seminary school, St. John's College, that would eventually become Fordham University. The famous poet Edgar Allan Poe spent his last few years of life in a cottage in the Fordham Road area. And I believe that still stands to this day. There's also Poe Park, which was named after him. That area of the Bronx was Irish and Jewish for many, many years throughout the 20th century, going all the way even to the 1970s, when many moved out. You have your white flight, more and more immigration from the Caribbean, the West Indies, and Latin American countries. Many people who had been there for generations began to move out as the conditions deteriorated and it became more and more overcrowded. Fordham Road, since then, is basically one of the most major shopping strips in the Bronx. You have many stores. There was a famous Alexander's that was there back in the day. And now you just got basically a shopping district with also street vendors, which they tend to go at it from time to time. I can understand that. I can understand both sides. But it's kind of like a war between the vendors and the stores.
Store owners in the Bronx say illegal vendors are taking over entire streets and it's cutting into their bottom line.
But those selling their goods outside say that they're just trying to make a living. Jessica Formoso shows us the fight playing out on Fordham Road.
It is out of control.
Wilma Alonso, Executive Director of the Fordham Road Business Improvement District, is talking about the street vendors who have taken over Fordham Road. She says it's the worst from Webster Avenue to Grand Concourse.
We have 240 storefronts. In one given day, we can have 340 vendors on the sidewalk.
Many of the vendors are selling without a legal permit, something that has many business owners in the area upset.
They don't pay the no rent, so our boss pay the big bucks of rent.
Mojib Ullah is the manager of Kid City. He says it's the worst on the weekends. He claims there could be 5 to 7 vendors in front of his store, which hurts his business.
Sometimes they put the same item in the street and same item we have in the store. So it's like a slow down your business.
In March of this year, street vendor enforcement was taken away from the NYPD and placed in the hands of the city's Department of Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection. However, DCWP will not be fully operational until September. It's in the middle of hiring additional enforcement staff.
And to understand that we need enforcement, not on September, not in December, we need it now.
Now, we did speak to some of the street vendors out here. They did admit that they do not have the legal permits to be selling things on the street, but they say they are forced to do so because they lost their jobs during the pandemic.
That's a risk that we have to all take, you know, and I'm willing to risk that to feed my family.
We're not causing no harm to no one. We just making money like everyone else.
The last few months, CBS 2 News has been speaking with street vendors in the Bronx about making the permit system more fair and equitable as they face mounting fines from the Department of Sanitation. One vendor reached out to CBS 2's Bronx community reporter Shosh Bedrosian about the thousands of dollars that he now has to pay off in fines.
Bronx resident Floriberto Diaz and his family are preparing dozens of tamales for a busy day on Fordham Road.
Tenemos que cocinarlo en la noche, 3 de la mañana, se tarda uno preparando mucho.
Diaz is one of the hundreds of vendors that sells in the area. Like many of them we've covered here on Fordham Road, he's currently feeling the burden of DSNY enforcement sweeps.
So right now it's $6,000.
Yep, you heard that correctly. Diaz is facing $6,000 worth of tickets he received in just 1 month.
Por ahora yo estoy atrasado con mi cuenta de renta, con la luz. Estoy atrasado, no estoy activo como no atrasado, estoy muy atrasado en la renta.
Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Will Flores TV on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and X.